On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very exclusive treat. She's a New York Times bestselling author, speaker, and a passionate animal advocate, just to name a few. She's written a plethora of bestsellers, including Rock What You've Got and her latest children's book, Goodnight Sister, which is an instant classic, no big deal. As an animal advocate, she works as an ambassador for Best Friends Animal Society, where she lends her time, voice, and energy to spread awareness about animal rescue, which is something that is dear to my heart as well. You might have seen her during her wildly popular Instagram live series called BVA Baby, where she's interviewed some of the world's biggest world shakers discussing awesome topics, including pregnancy and motherhood. Her ability to write about her experiences and speak to her generation is second to none, and she's here to teach you about forgiveness and all the tips and tricks to thrive and evolve. She's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific mother and wife. Please welcome the abundant, soulful, wise, beautiful, and brilliant, the dynamic Katherine Schwarzenegger Pratt. How you doing, Katherine?
I mean, that was one of the best intros I have ever heard.
I'm so happy I did good by you. I take such pride in those, but as I like to say, it's your story. You wrote it. I just said it, Katherine.
I mean, thank you. That is very well done. And I feel great about myself now. So let's go.
Good. Mission accomplished. Let's get right into it. For the audience, in case you're not familiar with Katherine, my biggest suggestion is do a deep dive, play catch up, check out her books, her content, all the cool stuff she's got going on. What I think is most valuable is we just have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
Sure. Great.
What is your superpower?
Multitasking.
Really?
Yeah.
Your secret?
I think being the oldest in my family, I feel like I've always been raised to multitask really well. And then since I became a mom, I'm like, now this is really going to be useful. So I can do it.
It's impressive. And I like to do it as well. For instance, maybe listening to an audiobook or a podcast while I'm working out.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's a good way to multitask. I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm like an octopus. Like I can, but I don't know if it's also because I also see these like memes on Instagram of how women walk around with 100 things, like 4 different drinks, a key, a phone, baby toys, like all these different things. So I think it's also like a lot of women are good at that in general. But yeah, that's a great way to multitask for you.
Yeah, hell yeah. And of course, we're going to dive in all about the most recent book and so forth. One of the ones that you wrote in the past, which I'm really excited to talk about, we'll have to bring you on for a sequel, is all about forgiveness. Yes. And we'll touch upon that a little bit. But obviously, I want to talk about the one that you just dropped. And it was based upon your sister, Christina. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is accurate. Yeah, it's called Goodnight Sister. It's a children's book, and it's all based off the relationship between my sister and I. She's 19 months younger than me, and we did everything together growing up. We still do everything together, even as adults. And when we were younger, the dynamic of our relationship was very unique because even though I'm the oldest, I always made her do everything before me. Like I made her go to camp first, get her ears pierced first. She was very brave and bold when we were growing up, and I was much more shy and reserved. So I leaned on her a lot as we were growing up to do things and to kind of be my comfort person all the time. And so I wanted to write a children's book that was really honoring the relationship that we have as sisters, but also just the dynamic between us, which was a unique one. And it's made even more special because now I have 2 girls myself. So it's a fun
you do. And it's so beautiful because my best friend in the world is my brother, Mark. He's a little bit older than me, about 7.5 years. I only have one sibling. We're inseparable. Like I can't even tell you the last time we argue, we speak every day, all that fun stuff. So I understand how precious and important it is to nurture those type of relationships. I heard you say that the difference in age between you and Christina is the same as your daughters. Is that right?
Yeah, about the same as my daughters. And I have my 2 brothers. My brother Patrick is 4 years younger than me. My brother Christopher is 8 years younger than me. And I'm like crazy close to both of them too. So no matter what the age difference is, I feel like it's having siblings is such a huge gift. And even if you don't have a sibling, being able to find that in a friend or a cousin or somebody that's close in your life, so you have somebody to turn to when you need to be comforted or feel brave, is really special.
Yeah. Your parents instilled that in you in a young age, right? The power of the bond between siblings.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, my my whole family is really close. My whole extended family, we're all really, really close and very tight knit group of people. And I always watched my mom. She has 4 brothers. I always watched how close she was with her siblings and also her cousins, and just how much of an effort she made to stay close to them, to work at that relationship, and to be, you know, really strong together. And I always really admired it. And she always told us about how important it is to have a good relationship with your siblings, and that as you get older, it, you know, requires more work and more energy and effort, but it's the greatest kind of work that you can do, because there's no, you know, relationship or bond like the one that you have with family. So yeah, definitely instilled at a young age.
Amen. Couldn't agree more. And also, I wanted to ask you, because we just handed in our manuscript. We got a big book deal with Wiley, which I'm super excited about. And the whole process was, I didn't know what to expect. It's my first one. It was just so beautiful and therapeutic. And I'm already thinking about the second one. You just dropped essentially a children's book. How does your process compare when you're going into that type of genre, as opposed to like maybe some of the more serious ones, like about forgiveness and so forth?
Well, I think, I mean, just like you said, writing is so therapeutic. Even like for me, it's the reason that I got into writing in the first place, was just because I found it to be such a therapeutic process. And my first book about body image was really therapeutic, just for that time in my life and being really fired up and passionate about the subject of body image. And it wasn't something that was really talked about when I wrote it. And now it's a huge subject that people talk really openly about, which is amazing. But I was really, you know, passionate about talking about body image, writing about it, connecting with young girls about it, to let them know that they're not alone in their journey or experience or struggles. So, and then, you know, the second book that I did, which was about life after college, was another thing I was really passionate about at the time, in that moment in my life. And then when it came to my third book, which was about animal rescue, I still am really passionate about animal rescue and just being a voice for the voiceless. So I wanted to write that in a way that connected with young children and taught them about that from a young age. And then forgiveness was something that I felt I was really struggling with in my life, and felt that the more that I talked to other people about their experiences or challenges with forgiveness, that even though people's experiences weren't necessarily the same as mine, I was still able to take little nuggets of wisdom from everyone's experiences and learn from them myself, and also know that it's okay to struggle with forgiveness and take your time with it. And, you know, that it really is a gift that you give yourself. It's not about giving, you know, giving a gift to another person. So when it came to this book, my process was a lot more fun, because it was writing about something that was really, you know, lighthearted, and also just a subject that, you know, I'm really excited about, with the relationship I have with my sister, but then also between my 2 daughters. So it was a much more fun experience, a lighthearted experience. Whereas writing a book on forgiveness was really, you know, it was like a therapy session every single time I would sit down and write. It was like, you know, even though I would interview other people about their experiences and transcribe it and then write everybody's chapters in the book, you can't help but then start thinking about your own experiences, and like what situations in your life you might, you know, want to go back to, or maybe you're not over certain things that you thought that you were over. And or maybe you're being equipped with tools to prepare you for your future. Like there's so many things that you can learn from other people's experiences, that it was a much more intense process for
Yeah.
that book.
You're such a beautiful soul. And I want to acknowledge you for a second. Like, all your books kind of hit a different audience. And you're like, you'll never have to worry about being typecasted with your books. One's a children's book, one's forgiveness, one's body image, and so forth. It seems to be like, based upon this season that you're
Yes.
experiencing, is what you feel called to. Is that right?
Yes, for sure. And I always, when people say to me, like, so what are you going to do next? Like everybody always, what are you going to do next? What's your
Yes.
next thing going to be? And for me, I'm like, none of these books, like I didn't think, you know, when I did my first book, I didn't think like, oh, I'm going to continue to do books on all these different subjects. They're really subjects that, as I live my life and have different experiences and different struggles or different, you know, beautiful moments in life, that I feel like I'm not the only one experiencing those moments, and that they are either ones to be celebrated or ones to be talked about more, because other people might be experiencing them. I always do, you know, these books with the hope that someone sees themselves in one of these books and feels, you know, excited by it or less alone in their journey. And it's the same thing with my Instagram live series, BDA Baby. It's that same thought process, is just that, you know, I talk about different subjects with different people every single week with the hope that someone can watch it and say like, oh, I feel less alone in my journey now that she's talking about this with somebody, or that I have answers now to what I'm experiencing and I didn't really want to talk about it, or they feel like they're seen in that experience. And that's my goal with really everything that I do. So it's definitely big in the book part of my world, and with everything else as well.
Yeah, so good. So much to unpack there. And I love, because I was doing homework on you, because I'm a fan. And number two, I want to show this conversation the respect it deserves. And when you were talking about forgiveness, I love that you say forgiving doesn't mean condoning, right? It's
Yeah.
almost like it's liberating for you. And I wanted to ask you, because I think this will be valuable for the audience, straight up. Does forgiveness have a timeline?
No. I really learned that. I thought for sure when I was growing up that forgiveness was something that you gave to another person. Like, I forgive you. I'm giving you this gift of me forgiving you. And now we can move on, or we can move forward. And I also viewed it as people who forgave people were, you know, maybe weak people because they were condoning another person's behavior that wasn't necessarily great behavior, but, you know, they were saying that it was okay, that they were like, you know, that they'd hurt them or whatever. And so I really, I really think that based off of doing 2 years of a ton of research, of interviewing people from all walks of life, all experiences, and also just my own experiences, realize that forgiveness comes whenever you're ready for it. And also whenever you're willing to give that gift to yourself. It's not about, you know, condoning something that someone did. It's not about, you know, even allowing that person back in your life necessarily. It's about giving yourself the ability to move on from something and give yourself that gift of freedom. And when I talked to all of these people, you know, some of which were able to practice forgiveness really easily and quickly, others it took years, and others it took 20 plus years. And then some of the people in my book are not there yet. They're still practicing it, or they're still struggling with it, or they just say like, you know what, I'm never going to get there. And that's okay too. Like, some people will say to me when I launched this book, someone would say, what if I can't forgive? I don't want to forgive. And I would say like, that's okay. I totally understand that. And that's your choice and that's your decision. I'm a student of forgiveness. I'm not an expert on it by any means. I've practiced it, and I've been lucky enough to practice it for sure, but I'm not an expert on it. I assume I'll struggle with it, you know, as I go through life, but I love being able to learn from other people's experiences and struggles to be able to learn for myself, and then also apply certain things to my own life, with the hope that maybe I'll be able to look back and draw from other people's struggles and experiences when I feel stuck in my own forgiveness journey.
Yeah, this is so good. And one thing that I really did when I reinvented myself, and it wasn't just my career, it was my life. I just got engaged last summer. So everything really
Great.
changed for me. Thank you. So
Congratulations.
appreciate it.
Mhm.
One thing that I really did was, because I wasn't where I had hoped or thought I might be at this point in my life in the beginning of the pandemic. And for the first time ever, I forgave myself. I'm like, it's okay. Like, we've been through some stuff, right? We don't have to love all of it. But I think what matters most is what we do next. And by forgiving myself, it opened up all this space for me to be available to get those downloads, to figure out what is next for me, because I'd finally let go of all the resentment and all the emotional pain that I was carrying around, specifically for not being where I want to be. So even forgiving yourself is key as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, self-forgiveness, I feel like, you know, is oftentimes the hardest because we are our own biggest critics. And I think, you know, life in general is so hard. There are so many people who are, you know, knocking us down, criticizing us, and then to be able to shift that around and be your own biggest cheerleader and actually like encourage yourself and be positive to yourself, not be so hard or critical on yourself, is such a huge gift to give yourself. And forgive yourself for a variety of different things. You know, maybe you're not where you thought you would be. Maybe you were too hard on yourself. Maybe you allowed yourself to stay in a certain place that you know, look back on and say like, why did I do that to myself? Like, these are all moments that you can learn from, and not sit in a moment of beating yourself up for, you know, doing whatever you did, but just being compassionate with yourself. I always say that it was one of the things my mom said to me when I first became a mom, was to be gentle on yourself, because you'll always sit there and you'll say like, why didn't I do this better? Why didn't I do this differently? Why aren't I, why aren't I doing this more as a mom or as a parent? And that it's, it's hard enough to juggle a variety of different things, or to, get to a certain place, be a certain person. And I think the more we can be gentle and kind to ourselves, the better our experience will be to take us wherever we're going in life.
So good, because I was going to bring up, I know you talk a lot about empathy and compassion, but I imagine when you speak about that, you also mean to yourself, and you just nailed it.
Yeah, I think it's just like, I really try to look at life and also the world. And I feel like there are so many angry people and so many mean people and so many, moments in life where maybe we get frustrated, or we get frustrated by simple things, standing in a line, getting coffee, and it's taking a long time. And so I always try to like look at life like, okay, everybody in this line, everybody in this situation has something in life that's going on, that is going on behind closed doors that we don't know about. So changing how we interact with people and how we deal with people, even if someone is so mean to you, just looking at it like they're going through something that I have no idea what that is, and they feel like it's okay to treat me like that, and it's not okay, but I'm going to have compassion and empathy for whatever their journey is and whatever they're going through, and just, move on and move forward, not try to take things personally. And, I think being able to just like try and live a life with as much compassion and empathy and kindness as possible is the way to go.
Hell yeah. And this is very timely. So in a situation like that, would you even confront the person, or would you kind of just let it rock and give yourself compassion for how they treated you?
I think maybe both. It depends what the situation is. I'm definitely never one to like shy away from having a conversation that might make people uncomfortable. It makes my husband and my youngest brother are very similar that way, and they get very uncomfortable with those kinds of conversations. But I grew up watching my mom kind of go head on into having very deep and serious and intense conversations with complete strangers about life and struggles and challenges. And she would oftentimes be standing in line at Starbucks and start talking to a barista about like why they had blue hair. And literally in a matter of minutes, they'd be talking about like their deepest, darkest secrets of childhood trauma. And I would just like watch my mom have these conversations and connect with people, and people feel comfortable enough to like open their heart to her, that I always thought it was really admirable that she took the patience and curiosity in people. And so I really try to do that myself, because I feel like people are walking around, going through life really quickly, and nobody's really saying to so many people, like, how are you?
So true. Like
And
how really,
yeah, like how are you doing? Or, like, do you need help with something? Can I open the door for you? Like there are so many moments where you just do like little things of kindness, like stopping and just asking someone how they are, holding the door open for somebody. And it's just like changes the course of someone's day, or giving someone a compliment. Like it's, I think people are having a really hard time in general, but especially right now. And so I think that if we can just try to, do little acts of kindness every single day, it just changes, not only makes a difference in our day, but also just makes a difference in people's days, and sometimes makes such a huge difference that we don't even really realize. And so I really learned that from watching my mom from like a very early age, and just being able to see how she was so patient and still is. Like she talks to people, just like sits and listens. That listening is a huge gift that you can
superpower. Yeah.
it is total superpower. And my mom, that's like one of my mom's biggest superpowers. She has a million, but listening is one of her big superpowers, because she just like sits and listens, and oftentimes people don't even necessarily need feedback. It's just somebody wants to be heard, and it's such a gift.
Yeah. Love all this. This conversation got deep real quick. We'll land the plane with this. I wanted to ask you, because I really admire it. You've grown up obviously in the spotlight, but you've done such a great job of forging your own path, and you've done it gracefully and beautifully. I imagine that's tough for most. What's your secret for that?
Well, I think having very supportive parents was a huge gift and is a huge gift for me, and especially growing up, with a pretty recognizable last name, being able to have the gift of privacy that my parents gave to us kids, of not necessarily like being, displayed around for everybody to see us. They really allowed us to have a very normal and private upbringing, as normal as possible. And so I think when it comes to forging your own path, my mom gave us a lot of advice on that, because she came from a very recognizable family with, that had wildly huge accomplishments, and she was able to forge her own path and also understand that, even my mom, who's been a journalist for her whole life, basically, there are still moments where people will say to you, like, you only are able to do this because of who your family is or because of your last name. There's always going to be people who, you know, try to degrade what you've accomplished or take
Yep.
things away from you that way. And
Yeah.
just, yeah, being able to just know who you are, have faith, know who you are, feel comfortable and confident. And also my parents' goal with all four of us kids was just to raise good humans. And it didn't matter what we did. Like, it didn't matter if we, wanted to be an actor, or if we wanted to be a professional dog walker, or if we wanted to be a preschool teacher, or if we wanted to be a veterinarian or a writer, whatever it was. Like, it was always just find what you're passionate about, work really hard, and keep your head looking exactly at where you want to go. And I think that they raised us to be that way. And also raised us with the understanding that, like, they might be, recognizable or well-known people, but that didn't mean that we didn't have to work, or that we didn't have to make our own money, or that we didn't have to, forge our own path. They would be there to be supportive of us and love us no matter what. And we needed to make sure that we knew that we also had to work really hard too. So that was always something that was told to us from the very beginning. And told to us by our parents and also by my grandparents. So I'm also, in our family, there's every single person in my family, my cousins, my uncles, my aunts, everyone is trying to make the world a better place. So that to me was always really inspiring. Instead of being discouraging or intimidating, it was something that I looked at and I said, like, everyone around here is really making the world a better place and leaving the world better than they found it. And I also want to do that. And I think some people always are like, was that intimidating, and just like left you halted and, not wanting to do something? And I was like, no, it was exciting. It's like, I looked at what everybody else was doing and I was like, people are changing the world. People are doing huge, big things. And maybe I won't ever do something as big as that person, but I want to try.
Yeah.
And also not compare myself to what other people are trying to do. And that was always something I think my mom really talked to us about, was like, her uncle was the president, not comparing yourself to like what his accomplishments were, but what you can do also in your life. What are your interests, and how you can change the world and make the world a better place, and also help others. That's a huge part of my childhood, and also a huge part of like my life today, is just like, how can you help others, do what you're passionate about, and work really hard doing it. So
Honestly, the best answer possible. And for the audience that can't see it, and of course we'll drop the video version as well, but your soul is lit. And I love you. Well, it's all about contribution and impact, and you do it gracefully and classy and beautifully. And I want to acknowledge you for that. I think I know the answer to this, but let me know. The audience is breaking out. They're very loyal and engaging. There's about 4 million now. What's the best way for all of them to support you, Katherine?
Oh, thank you. I mean, buying the book, my book is actually out now and it's in bookstores. It's at Barnes and Noble, local bookstores, Amazon, of course. So supporting me in that way is awesome. You can also tune in to my Instagram page and my website. We go live every Thursday at noon for my BDA baby series. And we have really interesting, wonderful conversations with great people. So that's really exciting. And I think just following along for all of the other things is awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and we'll drop all that in the show notes, 100%. This was too much fun. It went by so quick. We'll definitely have to do a sequel. Hang out for 1 second. I want to connect with you after. Katherine,
Okay.
I want you to know you the definition of perspective, authenticity, and forgiveness. I could personally guarantee your best yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today.
Thank you.
That was awesome. That was time really well spent.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'd love to stay connected.
Yeah, for sure. I think Deandra, she's not on here, right? But she can give you my email.
Cool. And then
Uh,
also, is it you on your Instagram or you have like a team that runs it?
no, I'm on my Instagram, but I have, while I'm launching this book, I have somebody who helps me like repost all of the book stuff and all that.
Cool. I'll shoot
Yeah.
you a message in a little bit and maybe we can stay connected there and support each other.
Perfect. Sounds great. I also want to connect you with my brother Patrick because he would be great to have on here.
I would love that. I'd love to
Yeah,
support you guys.
he's awesome. Okay. He's very like, you guys have similar energy of like
Let's do
big,
it.
big energy. Yeah, I like it.
I love it. We'll have the team coordinated.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Awesome. Have a good
Okay.
rest of the day, Catherine.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.